Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays radio show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Pleasant good afternoon, Bahama land, and welcome to the Voice of the Bays, The Environment Speaks. And as you know, the environment speaks very forcefully when it comes to what are we going to pass on to future generations. And of course, you know, we have a warning today from IRCA that nothing should be party political, and so we're going to avoid that like the devil avoids holy water, because we don't want Love 97 and Mr. Jones to get in any hot water today. But even though this whole matter of protecting our heritage can come across as being something political, it really isn't, because it is actually something that's sacred, that is owned by every single Bahamian in the country, particularly what we call the crown land that is available for different situations. And over the years, you know, political parties and whoever, without exception, has really deprived our people of this sacred heritage, and much of it has been given away or sold, and probably for like a pot of porridge, and some people haven't even had a chance to taste the porridge. And so we want to know how we are going to safeguard what is left of our archipelagic nation, these beautiful little islands, and to what extent can we continue to sell them, to give them away, etc. And what are we going to do in a determined manner to make sure that 100 years from now, every single Bahamian can own a piece of land in their country. I have as my guest this afternoon the renowned Omar Archer. And Omar has a keen sense of what it is to own, what it is to belong, what it is to participate in the ownership of what is called our country. And so we're going to discuss with him this evening. And, you know, everybody knows that Omar can be very political, but he's already been warned by me and the station manager that we are avoiding politics this afternoon. And of course, you don't know where I stand, because I've never attended a political event or rally in my life. I have voted all my adult life, and so that can be either here or there. So, Omar, welcome to Voice of the Bays, The Environment Speaks. You know, I listened to a piece that you did the other day, and I said to myself, that type of passion in terms of ownership of what is here for us, you had such a sense of how we have to safeguard that. No matter what happens to any political entity that might take over the government tomorrow or next week or whatever, it is a sacred privilege given to whoever is head of the government to take care of the land. Good afternoon and welcome to Voice of the Bays.
Oh, good afternoon and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here. And I'd like to say also good afternoon to your listening audience. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Okay, let's look at how we came about to get in a situation where we're losing or giving away or selling a lot of our sacred heritage, which belongs to future generations. And let me say that, you know, when the Europeans came to America and they found the Indians there, they began to rout out the Indians. You know, the indigenous people that we called Indians,
yes,
wherever that name came from, because I guess they thought they discovered the other side of the globe. They had no sense of ownership. They simply celebrated the fact that they had the use of planet Earth, Mother Earth, for a period of time. Where have we gone wrong in recognizing the value and the sacredness of our planet?
Well, that's a very, very good question. But I will start by explaining how we got to where we are now today in terms of losing so much of our country that it stated quite clearly in the preamble to the Constitution. In the preamble to the Constitution, it states quite clearly that the islands of the Commonwealth of Bahamas is owned by the citizens of this country. And that is why in 1981, an act called the Immovable Properties Act was put in place. And under that act, a foreigner was able to still purchase Bahamian land, yes, but they were only allowed to purchase 5 acres and nothing more. That sentence has been repealed in January 1st of 1994. Initially, the bill that appealed, the act that appealed it, replaced it. It was known as the Foreign Persons Landholding Agreement Act. Mm-hmm. But because the word foreign was viewed as offensive in the international arena, mm-hmm. they changed it to International Persons Landholding Agreement. Oh, okay. And it replaced the Immovable Properties Act, January 1st of 1994. And from then to now, which has been 23 years, basically 5 months and 2 days, we've sold some 53% of undeveloped Bahamian land. That's some 420 islands and keys. Under the International Persons Landholding Agreement Act that's in place now from January 1st of 1994, a foreigner is now permitted to purchase as much Bahamian land as their monies can afford. So that is where the phrase came from several years back, that the Bahamas is a nation for sale. And that is what it originated
from. So then that Immovable Properties Act, that actually was a way that people who with a lot of money could not come to the Bahamas and prospect.
Yes,
they were allowed a certain percentage, certain acreage.
5 acres.
5 acres, and then they would have to develop it in a certain period of time.
Yes.
So you're saying then, as a result of the removal of that act, then it was free for all to come in, and whoever has a lot of money can buy up a whole lot of Bahamian land?
That is exactly what's going on right now. To date, they sold some $6.5 to $6.6 billion worth of undeveloped Bahamian land.
So going forward, Omar, is this a dangerous situation, or should we probably again reinstitute that Immovable Properties Act so we could begin to protect some of the lands that are left for future generations? Because Bahamians would basically, but simply they would no longer be ownership within their own country.
It's more than a dangerous situation. It's just unthinkable, to be honest. Think of it like this: if I'm asking your child, my child, other Bahamian children, to pay off a national debt for a country that will be owned by foreigners, it's like saying to you, you can go into Friendly Ford, purchase a brand new truck, but I'm the one who has to drive off with it. I get to enjoy it, not you. So I think that is unfair to ask that of Bahamian children. I think it's time that we safeguard their interest, and their interest is their birthright, and their birthright is
I made a rough
Bahamian
estimate
land.
just from what I'm aware of in Nassau, Freeport, probably Long Island,
Yes.
etc., and islands that I've had some sort of first-hand knowledge about. We have a population of under 400,000 people.
Yes.
And I estimated that there is 150,000 of those persons who has no title to any land in their own country. Is that fair?
Again, no, it's not. Yeah, and it's beyond inexplicable. So I think, for the most part, the Bahamians have literally been robbed. They've been robbed, and if we're going to continue to allow the selling of our undeveloped Bahamian land, we're not just going to lose our identity and our culture. We're going to lose our heritage, everything that goes with it.
And then not to be political at all, but we're not blaming any particular government, because every government before, even the UBP, did this to our country, even from the overlords that came out of England. Yep. So it's similar to what the Europeans did to the original peoples.
Yeah, the Union Jack did it. The UBP did it.
Yeah, and all the way down the line. Right. And so it is something that I think that I am critically mindful to sensitize our people to the fact that we could lose everything. Let me put stuff in perspective here. You know, I have been trained as what do you call climate change leader. Yes. Trained under Al Gore.
Okay.
And so I have a certain sense of exactly what is going to take place universally and specifically within the archipelagic nation of the Bahamas.
Okay.
And that is that by the end of this century, in about 80 years or less, we're going to lose 80% of our islands because most of them are at sea level. And even with a sea level rise of 3 feet, 1 meter, many of our islands are going to be underwater. And this is not anything to frighten people, because I keep telling young people, learn how to build boats, because you are going eventually to have to live on the ocean. Let me give you some statistics here. We have a square mileage in the Bahamas of 100,000 square miles of water, ocean, bays, mud and all of that stuff.
Right.
Out of that 100,000 square miles, only 6,200 square miles is actually hard land. So you see what we're talking about? And you can look at the archipelagic nation of the Bahamas. I mean, just one little string of narrow islands. You know, Andres is a big continent here, and even that has very little hard land. I even recently, my good friend, the ambassador from BAMSI, they're thinking now, because of the water table, the sea level rise, also the frequency of hurricanes and water settling, they're going to have to go south.
Yes.
To Acklands, Crooked Island, probably Long Island, where there is a little bit of elevated land and where they can probably begin to do farming as well. So those are the things that we got to be critically conscious about.
Wow.
How are we going to feed? Where are we going to locate our people in the future? Do you feel the sensitivity and anxiety about that?
That's scary, actually, to even think about that. So you think that it's 6,200, you said square miles?
Yeah, 6,200 square miles of hard land.
So the other 93,800
is ocean.
Wow.
Water. And we're beginning to lose now, as you can see, on any of the islands on the coastal area. Like, for example, in Freeport, a friend of ours, we do some work with, we've examined. In fact, he had called me. He knew that I had this training in sea level rise, and he said, Mr. Outen, in fact, Gordon Outen, he doesn't mind me calling his name.
Right.
He called me one day, he said, Joe Dowell, please come down. I hear you talking on the radio about sea level rise. He said, I want to show you something. So I go down there, his place is east of one of the hotel resorts there in Freeport, and he said, look at this. He said, I've lost 35 feet of my property over the last 15 years. I have had to keep moving back and back, because, he had his little cabana with egg and cob salad and all of that stuff. And actually, some of the pylons that he had are like out in the water down about 3 feet. So that's how much he has lost. And
in 15 years.
Yeah, in 15 years, and not due to hurricane. The last hurricanes, for example, have exacerbated it. They even made it worse. So he said, what am I going to do? I said, the only thing you need to do, because he has a big piece of beautiful property there, I said, you got to move back at least 100 feet from the seacoast, and the building that you want to build, which is a beautiful place called Monterey Village, and you're in Freeport, go there, and the food is great. I mean, listen, Omar, I'm salivating now just for the sweet potato fries.
Wow.
Oh, so if you're ever in Grand Bahama, Gordon, you're getting a free ad here today.
I would look forward to going.
You got to go there. He is such an industrious person. He's the son of the old.
I'm headed back there in a few days, actually.
Yeah, that's right. And so he's built this beautiful thing, and he moved it back 100 feet from the waterfront, and he built it up 3 feet, 3 feet from the ground. But even with that, he had one invasion of rocks and sand and water that came in there, went all the way out to the road with his property. So he had to clean that up afterwards. But fortunately, you know, the building itself was elevated enough.
Right.
So we got to talk about this, and you know, what the governments have to look at this in terms of a critical issue, because I am concerned, you know. And for example, and I even hesitate to say this, Omar.
Yes.
We got to conserve the hills in our country for Bahamians.
But they're cutting it down for making curry and
those should
selling.
never be cut down. They should never be sold to foreigners. Even, you know, I have had a problem. I don't know about you. I have had great difficulty with even selling any of the keys or massive pieces of land in the Bahamas, because I leased them for sure for 100 years.
That's fine.
But
Leasing
you know,
it.
down the road, 100 years from now, where are our people going to settle?
Wow. You know, that's a mouthful, and it's quite a lot of information to try and wrap your mind around, and to think that he lost 35 feet in 15 years.
Yeah, in 15 years.
And at that rate, and let's say in 45 years, that would have been basically 105 feet.
That's right. And you know, that's
lot.
only one example.
Yes, that's
if
a
you
lot.
look at
That's
if you look
quite
at
alarming.
the south side of Grand Bahama, you know, we have all these casuarinas, you have all these beautiful long beaches, and the invasion of the ocean now. For example, we're even getting residual like little lakes, even to the extent now fish dwell within them, and the pine trees that used to border the edge of the sand, the beachfront, they are now uprooted, and the ocean is flowing in way beyond their roots.
Oh my goodness!
So that's how these islands, and you know, we don't have hard rock islands, and these have been covered in water before. On Miller's Hill, for example, where we used to go crabbing and digging crabs out of the rock, and this hill is about 150, 170 feet high. It's not the highest in the Bahamas. The highest is in Cat Island, Cat Island or San Salvador.
Cat Island, I think it's Cat Island.
Yeah. When we dig down to get crabs out of those holes, we run into conch shells. So that tells you that these islands were covered. In fact, just the other day in Abaco, they had opened a little museum, and they had all of these magnificent shells. It was unbelievable. They had a conch shell in there that went way back to the Lycaon Indians period, and they dug down into the rocky area when they were dredging. I mean, not what you call it, scooping up. What the other word? What's that? Digging, grubbing, or whatever through the rock.
Right.
And they came upon this thing inside the rock, embedded in the rock, the most beautiful conch shell you've ever seen, and it even had a different way that Lycaon Indians actually used to get the conch out. They didn't, you know,
they didn't crack a hole in
like
it.
that.
No.
They in fact, what they did, they took off the edge, the end of the conch, and then they used that to pound into a hole that they had opened a little ways up towards the big lip of the conch. It's amazing. So if you ever go, it's down in Sandy Point.
So it's on display?
Huh?
Is it on display? The conch shell that they
Yeah,
found?
it's on display. They opened a little museum there, and I never saw beautiful seashells like that in my life. But that one, and it's perfect. This perfect. The end is broken off, and then there's that little hole that they must have pounded that end of the conch down to get the conch out.
So you're telling me that's proof now that island at one point in time was underwater?
Absolutely. You know how deep
Wow.
they found? They found that down 6 feet in the rock.
6 feet?
Yeah. So that tells you how many times the ocean had flowed over there, and then these rocky things built up. These islands, Omar, are absolutely amazing.
Yes.
So go ahead, you talk. I don't want to talk all.
No,
after.
go on. That's fine. Just
Yeah, but you know,
I'm learning a lot right now. Just listening.
you see,
I love this.
a lot of people feel that, you know, a lot of things that happen to us, you know, we're being punished by the Almighty God because of corruption and all of that. Let's forget about that.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
Mother Earth goes through her cycles
Definitely.
of cold and heat. She's going through one right now, but we are exacerbating it, making it worse because of our carbon footprint. You know, we're not looking at her as a living entity. Mother Earth is a living entity. She got a belly, a womb, and a breast, and we come 99.99% from her. and we spit on her. We do that on her. We dump our garbage
Yes,
on
we
her.
do.
You know, we don't respect her belly, and so she you know, we could be gone one of these days, but she ain't going nowhere.
She's always going to be here.
She's always going to be here. But if we don't respect her, she will not give us the privilege to reside upon this planet.
Wow.
So she could always rejuvenate herself, no matter how we foul it up and pollute it up and all of that. She will one time say, hey, you know, these human beings don't respect me.
They don't appreciate
You know, I'm
me.
their mother. They don't appreciate
Enough
me.
is
So I'm going to teach them a little lesson.
And
You
from
know,
time to time she
I'm going to
does.
flip-flop. I'm going to change my axis, and they're going to fall all off and go out into outer space. So, you know, but she has that regard for us. I try to teach our children in the environmental education programs. We had a phenomenal program going on.
Tell me about that. Tell
We
me about
have
that
a going
program.
program. We started it actually 4 years ago. We're celebrating our 4th year this March.
Right.
And we have an incredible team of facilitators, and we advertise the program every year. And we first started out with like getting 40, 45 students. And we cut it down because we wanted to give them as much as possible. And we work with like 8 or 9 facilitators. So
Right.
there are only like 3 or 4 now to each facilitator. And we take them through the whole gamut of the environment, starting with the coral reefs, the mangroves, the seafront, and all of that. And then, you know, we have some scientific people with us now, and
That is
we're
awesome.
analyzing the mangroves, and, you know, the different types and all of that, the different types of corals. So it's really a comprehensive program.
It's
And
funny. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it's
go
funny
ahead.
you mentioned the mangroves, because I remember back in 2009, I was given a contract to clean up Adelaide, and what I took it upon myself to go a step beyond, particularly when it came to the mangroves. I ordered the dump trucks that I had, and I had the individuals who were living within that community. I hired all of them. Close to 25 of them I hired. I said, I'm going to give you all a specific job to do. I want you all to walk from the main road all the way through the mangroves, and as you come upon plastics or bottles or cans or anything that should not be there, instead of just taking one out and walking and throwing it in the road, you just, you know, and you slowly but surely they began to clean the mangroves. And we went all the way into the mangroves to clean. We cleaned everything out. Would you believe, at the end of 3 weeks, we hauled out 19 dump truck loads of garbage out of the mangroves.
Omar, you're a man of my
Yeah,
heart. You mean you did stuff like that? You
No.
guided people to do that?
No, we did that, and it was such an awesome feat. Bahamas National Trust did not even recognize it. They were like really excited about it. I went back the following year. The mangrove came alive. I saw a nice fish this
Oh,
way,
my
that way.
God.
I'm like, this is how this should always be.
Yeah, that's it should always be, because the value of mangroves. I mean, let me just give you a little story too. You know,
Right.
we did a cleanup recently with 4Ocean organization out of Florida, and with the West End Ecological Club, Sailing Club,
Right.
there with Keith Cooper, and we were given a specific area, and that was the mangroves. And I've never seen such a celebration in the aspect of cleaning. I mean, the ocean had flowed in, and then it went out, so it took all hundreds and thousands of plastic bags off the land, and of course they ended up in the mangroves. And they were, our young people were climbing like 8 or 10 feet up into those mangroves to reach where the plastic bags had woven around themselves around the roots and the branches of the mangroves. I mean, I was so proud of them. And at one particular point, in fact, one of the girls in the program, she went way out into the water up to her neck. And I was even a little hesitant. I'm not afraid of basically anything. I said, well, if that young girl can do it, I can do it too. So we went way out in the water where the mangroves, jutted out into that deep water, probably
Yes.
about 4 or 5 feet deep, to get at all of these plastic bags. And we collected only from that area of the mangroves. I told him, and and Venerable Assistant Rishima Ingram, who runs the whole program for me. We wanted to make sure that we were going to leave no plastic bags, because every time I went to West End and I passed that area, I said, oh my God, that looks so bad. So one of the young men, this is something that, we were digging up all sorts of sheets and blankets and all that stuff from the bottom, but it was strangling the young plants, because, mangroves give birth to little babies called propagules.
Wow.
And they drop. Now, if the bottom is covered with mud, with blankets and all that stuff, they cannot sink into the mud.
Right.
And so we were pulling all these things out of it. We collected from that area of the mangroves alone over 1,100 pounds of debris just from that particular area.
In West End.
In West End. And they were able to see all the fish in there, the puffish, the little grunts, the Margaret.
Yes, as if they just came back.
And they
all of a sudden.
understood there and then the significance of these mangroves, that these fish took their refuge there.
Tell me if you had the same experience then, because you brought something else to my mind. When we were taking all the cans and the plastics and the other bottles and stuff out of the mangroves, we came across a lot of like old metal, like the old iron that people used to use, and some of those stuff that I actually kept, and some of them are much older than I am. I'm like, this must be worth something.
Oh yeah.
So we kept some of those stuff, and now the sad part about it is, because I've been literally keeping my eyes on Adelaide ever since.
Yeah.
All right. There was an oil spill last year, September, from BEC. Some 100,000 gallons of oil escaped, and it ruined the water table around there, and it damaged some of the mangroves.
Yeah.
And I did it like kind of quietly, because I don't want to make a big thing about it, because you don't want to get political about these things. So I went to certain persons and asked them, what are we going to do about this? What do you intend to do about this? This damage is widespread, and those persons gave me their word they would do whatever they can within their power, to rectify it or correct the problem. And nothing has been done. And it's quite disturbing to me, because the mangroves are so beautiful.
They are, and talking about beautiful, I had one of the phenomenal experience, almost transcendental experience. Not me personally, but one of the young men who was way up in the mangroves, at one point he leaned back and he said to us, this feels so peaceful in here.
Wow.
And that's exactly what they are. They're such a peaceful, and the fact is how they grow and the cluster, and how they're actually designed by the Creator to block the vengeance of the ocean.
Wow.
And how they accumulate the bed of the beginning of the growth of islands. They build islands. You look at the lakes around here. You see all these little patches of mangroves in the middle of them.
Yes.
Within 100 years, those are going to be little islands, and people can actually live on them. Mangroves grow islands, and they protect the coastal area.
I didn't know that.
And if you look at Omar, I'm so glad I have you, because I have a sense that you got this sensitivity to Mother Earth. And I bring you down sometime to talk to our young environmentalists.
Sure, I'd love to do that.
We're so proud of them. We give them everything that they need to know. They are becoming experts. We are graduating a group, in fact, on Saturday morning. And combined with all of this stuff that we teach them, we go through the whole thing of creative leadership. They're being trained as leaders.
Yes.
So they're not only going to learn about these aspects of the mangroves, the coral reefs, etc., but they're going to know how to share it with their peers, how to share it in assemblies and schools, etc. And then we incorporate a drumming aspect to it, which actually begins to release all of their inner being, the passion that's built up and that I may be afraid to express. It is a wonderful program. I'm over 75 right now, and if I live to be 80 and 90, I still want to work with young people like that. Oh,
that's awesome.
Because they give you that sense of what it is that we're going to project into the future. Because awesome. We are borrowing We are borrowing these islands from them, future generations.
Yes.
And I always like to
Yes.
go back to the
That's well said. I
to
like that.
the original people, the indigenous people. You know, in fact, I was given a talk to the American Women's Club in Freeport on Monday night.
Okay.
And I brought up this whole thing about growing up on Long Island and how the mangroves were so important for us because that's where we went and we were able to get the gray snappers.
Yes.
We were able to get the bunny siggers to fish with. We were
Wow.
able to, you know, when the fish dig a hole there, we call it grubbing, to grub the fish. And,
Oh, my goodness.
So the mangroves was a sacred area for us.
Yes.
And we used to pick like what they call the something tongue, flamingo tongue shells and all of that. We would go out early in the morning. Oh my God! You know the reason why I have such a regard for Mother Earth because she sustained us all the time on
yes.
the island.
And it's still doing it. Now.
Well,
She's still doing it now.
I told him about the example when I went over. My grandmother said, "Boy, we have no relish. You know, relish that all the people meant. You ain't got
Yes.
no corn beef."
Yes. Yes.
So he said, "Boy, go in the hills and dig couple of crabs." So I go over there and
Wow.
I had 4, and then I saw this beautiful hole. I said, "Got to be a big one down in there." So I cleared out the rocks, and you know they hibernate. This is
Yes,
outside
yes.
the crab in season. So I put my hand down. So man, that crab laid hold of me. I thought the crab was sleeping. So I sat there and laid it on the ground. And every time I would attempt to, and I could show you right now. See that mark there?
The crab biter did that?
That's 65 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so the crab laid hold of that one. This is the index finger, right?
Yes,
The
yes.
index finger there. And so I made probably about 10 attempts to ease it out. And every time she felt the move, she clamped down on
Yes.
it.
You know, people don't know that's what you're supposed to do when a crab bite the locks on you.
Yeah.
You just stay still.
But this one
Until it eases up on you.
wasn't standing for that. She's too
Oh.
smart. So I said, okay, I'll finally get in dark. So I said, get out of here. So I made one more attempt, and then she clamped down on it again. And then I finally yucked it out, pulled this whole thing right off.
Oh, my
finger.
gosh.
And so I said, okay, I cover up the hole and stuff like that. And then I went back the next day, and I took a stick this time, a green stick, put it,
Yes.
boy, she laid hold of that. I pulled her right out. She was one of these huge, you know, orange and red and black.
Yes.
Black crab.
Yes.
I couldn't take her home to eat because she was filled with eggs.
Oh, wow.
So I had to put her back in the hole so she could finish her hibernation and spread the land with more
Yes.
crabs. So,
Yes.
you know, the lands and the seas, we you know, we come from them. We come from them. And you got that spirit of reverence for Mother
Yes,
Earth.
I definitely do. I appreciate Mother Earth.
Where did you get that sense from?
Honestly, I mean, my thing is, it just came natural to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, because as a young boy, what I used to do a lot, I used to, on Saturdays, particularly on Sundays after church, I used to like go wandering through shortcuts, and you know, sometimes I would just sit in the bush and listen to the birds chirp for hours and hours. I did my homework in the bush a lot of times for myself. So I cleared out a spot one time and put some crates there, made it nice and comfortable. Sometimes I even took a chair with me. You know, if I'm listening to music, sometimes I just relax, take that out there. And if I'm not listening to the birds chirp, you know, because what I did one time, I actually pressed record on my little cassette box.
Yeah.
And I sat there for like an hour and a half, and I recorded everything that was going on around.
Oh my God.
And I heard birds, you know, heard dogs barking, you know, you hear the cracks here in the bush, and sometimes just be a brief moment of silence, and all of a sudden, bam, something happens. You know, and I took that recording home with me, and what I did at nighttime, before I went to bed, I would play it, and it just gave me a really a peace came over me, a sense of peace, and I just went to sleep that
I
way.
wonder if you're my brother from a different mother. Because, you know, on Long Island where we grew up, I had a little spot too that I always, whenever I felt down or sad,
Always go to that one
going
spot.
through these periods of growth and so forth,
Yes.
I had my special spot
Yes.
about a quarter mile from the house.
I had a black.
I would go there and I would lean up against a tree and I would sit there and do nothing but listen to the sounds.
Just listen to the sounds that are around you.
Of nature.
My dog would always go with me, man. I had a Labrador dog.
And after 65 years, when I go there, I go to that same area.
To this very day.
And it just captures me. Like my energy is still abiding in that area.
Well, lucky you, because your spot is still there. Mine now has been developed. Highway's been cut through it. And some homes have been built over. Every time I pass, right there in Stapleton Gardens, every time I go to my mom's house, I always remember that. I always remember that particular spot. And I'm like, man, they cut a road through my spot. You know what I mean? I always, everyone passing the same highway. I don't get upset about it, but I'm like, man, they cut a road through my spot. This is my spot. And from it, there you go down a little hill, and there's a pond. A natural pond that's there, and there are turtles in the pond, and you hear them grunting in the pond and stuff like that. It is just so nice.
Oh, it is. So nice. I mean, those are the beautiful things of Mother in nature. And one of the sad things about young people today, they got so many instruments to fiddle with. They hardly know that there's a moon up there and stars.
Wow.
And they don't celebrate all this natural beauty and gorgeous gift that we have been provided with in these islands. One of the things that I mentioned in my presentation to the American Women's Club the other night, and that was that the original people here who were all killed out, the Europeans came and sold them into slavery and devastated all of them. But I still sense, every time I go to Long Island and go in the hills, I still sense their presence, because they were in the rocks, in the water, in the trees, their spirit still abides. And that's exactly, in fact, I was thinking about that the other day, and then I came across this thing about the indigenous people in Americas.
Right.
And they had that sense too. They had no sense of that this is mine, this plot is mine. But as soon as the Europeans came, they had staken out everything, and they were called savages. Isn't that funny?
Wow.
Indigenous people, peaceful, gentle, savages. They were called savages. I mean, really, who were the savages?
Those who eliminated them.
Yeah, they moved around freely, and they only killed what they needed to eat.
And that's it.
They didn't slaughter the buffaloes, etc. They had that pristine appreciation. And I think, when I think about my people, and we live in these islands where indigenous people were here before, where the Caribou, Lucayan, or whatever, their spirit abides there, and we need to connect with that, and we need to celebrate that, because they had an impact upon these islands which is enduring, because there's no way Mother Earth was going to allow them to be here unless she has provided a sanctuary of energy for them that would continue. And I pray that we could kind of connect into that, plug into that, and begin to appreciate this magnificent archipelagic nation.
Yes.
I got to say it here again, because people always expect me to say it. The astronauts, as they circle the globe, I don't know how many times, they would determine what was the most beautiful spot on Mother Earth, planet Earth. And they came to the conclusion that the archipelagic nation of Bahamas was the most beautiful spot on the earth. A lot of people don't know why. A lot of people don't know why. In fact, I have a huge Google map in my office.
Right.
And I brought it out one day to a group of our environmental students. I said, now look at this. Why do you think the astronauts picked this as the most beautiful spot on the planet? But let me go back to the climate march that I attended with 400,000 people in New York. They had these huge globes, I mean, as big as this room, and they had this mechanical machine that was revolving the globe.
Okay.
And I stood through the crowd and looked at it and so forth, and then at one point I waded through hundreds of people, and I went to the one guy who was controlling the mechanism for the revolution of the planet.
Right.
And I said, could you stop once? And he said, what, stop this, Roland? I said, yeah. I said, I want to ask you a question. So he stopped. I said, now when you start revolving this again, look at all of the stuff that's being shown, because the map was, the globe was going this way and that way,
Right,
all
right.
directions. So I said, as it goes, show me what you think is the most beautiful spot on there. He went, 2 revolutions, he pointed to the Bahamas.
Oh,
I
wow.
pulled up my flag of the Bahamas that was around my waist.
Yes.
I said, that's where I'm from. The most beautiful
Wow.
spot on the planet.
Wow.
And we need to appreciate that. So finally I got it out
is
of
very
the
interesting.
kids. That it is the only spot. You go look at the globe again. You may find a little bit of light up from the ocean here, the bays and
Yes.
so forth.
Yes.
But in the Bahamas, all the way from Abaco, Grand Bahama, going all the way down to Inagua,
Wow.
we got this beautiful, illuminating bank of aragonite, underwater beaches. It's the only spot on the planet that actually lights up from outer space.
Wow.
So you see why I'm so passionate about these islands and the people here?
And aragonite is being shipped out in dray loads.
Yeah. And that's why,
it's
but
funny.
the thing is, with aragonite is almost eternal once the ocean is there, because aragonite is not sand.
Okay.
It's a different, people always think it's all sand, but aragonite forms from the interaction between a lot of sand is created from coral reefs,
Yes,
or breaking up of rocks and so forth in the ocean. Aragonite is formed by the combination of the sun on the ocean. And so as long as we have this magnificent sun out there, and
Yes.
this beautiful
I know we have a lot of that
ocean,
sun. We got a lot of
we're going
sun.
to have aragonite.
Yep.
And even if we were to harvest aragonite, that's extremely, extremely important. They're using it all over the world. It is the one thing, because it has these chemical properties, because it's a combination between the sun and the crystals, salt crystals in the water, in the ocean.
Wow.
So they use that to stabilize everything. Even instruments that they use to cut open people. They use it in perfumes to stabilize the
And they build nuclear plants with it. so-
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we are rich. Every Bahamian, Omar, should be a millionaire.
Wow.
We have so many wonderful resources.
You know
We
that-
are negligent, and we're going to realize at one point that relying on tourism is our detriment,
Yes.
because
Yes.
with the sea level rise, which will happen at the end of this century,
It's
and
happening as we
it's
speak.
happening already.
Yes.
We're going to lose the beaches. We're going to lose all the hotels along the beaches, etc. And we're going to be left with the ocean. So let's get used. I tell my young people, learn how to build boats. You remember Noah?
Yes.
Noah?
Yes.
No, that wasn't so much as a big punishment by God, That was simply because Noah was an intelligent man. He saw what was happening. He watched the signs of the earth. And he realized that, hey, the seas are rising, the rains are falling, because with the rise of the ocean comes more and more rain.
Yes.
And there's a physical thing about that. A lot of people. So there's going to be a lot of rain, and the sea level is going to rise. And what are we going to do? We're going to say, well, we're being punished by God. No. We got to adjust. This has happened on the planet before. The Polynesian Islands, the Hawaiian Islands, the ocean rose up, way up, and they moved up into the mountains to live. They built boats, huge boats, and they took off to New Zealand and those other islands to survive, because all of their islands, and they watched it happening. So what did they do? They said, hey, this is a phenomenon that's going to happen. We better build long boats, because we're going to have to take
They knew it was inevitable.
They knew it was inevitable, so they're going to take boats, because we're going to have to move. You see how
Wow.
we have to be prepared?
You're teaching me a lot today, Mr. Darvin. I'm loving this.
Someone on the phone? Oh, okay. We got a call. Let me see if I can get this now without messing it up. Hello, you're on the line.
Yeah, how you doing, Joe?
I'm doing fine. Is this Keith?
This is Kendall Colbert.
Oh, Kendall. Hi, good afternoon,
Kendall Colbert from
Oh, my
Freeport.
God. You're a man of my heart too. You're one lover of the earth. Kendall, go ahead.
You called my name, Aragonite.
Oh, right. Go ahead.
Hi to your guest. I'm Mr. Superman. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you, Kendall. How have you been?
You are a man to be reckoned with. I just love your spirit. I just love everything about you, sir.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Mr. Davila, give me 1 second to explain to you. You were talking about the environment, and you think about 480 years ago, we were underwater.
Amen. Yeah.
And we'll go under faster because now we've drilled wells and holes and drainage system. And if you think of sea level rise, it comes up, not from the shore, but comes upwards.
Amen.
We
Yep.
will go under even quicker.
Yeah.
But Barack Obama, mineral scientist, said that if you want to stop global warming, you need to use more of the aragonite coming out of the Bahamas. We have something right on the west coast of Andros called alkaline mud. Google it. That can be used as lubricant, and you will never have to change oil again, Mr. Davo.
Kendall.
Yes, sir.
You're amazing. You're a prophet. Well, I'm not saying out of your time because we need prophets presently. Go ahead. Continue, please.
Yeah, if you take a look at our sand, it goes around the earth 1 grain at a time through the jet stream, and when it comes back in the summer, the sun actually melts the sand, and it piles up in the back of the west coast of Andros. And if we don't remove it, it takes that same journey again through the tongue of the ocean and goes around the earth again, and it's piling up. If you look at after a hurricane that hits America, they need sand. We don't ever need sand. Why? Because the Bahamas is situated on a hill on the earth. When you talk about the Bahamas being blessed, there's no other country in the world. You know how long they were moving aragonite from Ocean Key? From the 1800s.
That's right. You're correct.
From one spot, Mr. Davo, one spot. And the reason they don't use Ocean Key anymore is because it's become so soft now, aragonite. They're using vacuums now to remove it. And when you talk about us being wealthy, there's no other countries more wealthier than we are.
Isn't that something, Kendall? We're the wealthiest naturally, and also the most beautiful.
Yes, and you know what it takes? It takes men like you and I to come together. And I mean, we need to. You know what I would like to do? I would like to go out in the front of, say, Dr. Davo's office and sit there and call some international attention, so they can ask, well, why wouldn't you move? So I can be able to get some international attention in here, so they can investigate who's really making the profits from these aragonites. Our Prime Minister. No, that's not to get, this is not political. I know you can't talk political.
Okay, yeah, no, we'll try to avoid that. Any reference with any name at this time.
The bridge is going up right now, Dr. Davos. And you see that, take Mr. Omar down there and look at it. It's right on the side of the road. That's aragonite. It's being shipped out of the country. And the deal was made with the Grand Mountain Port Authority to just dredge the harbor, and they can have the stuff that's coming out of it. It's a barter deal. There's no money transaction. Could you believe it? $1 billion company now.
Yeah, they've made billions, and not only about that, they're going to need more and more. And before Obama left the presidency, he actually made a statement to the effect that they will need to have sand or aragonite from the Bahamas in order to shore up their coastal areas.
Yeah,
now, if we have sufficient, we should put a price on that. If they're going to harvest that, we should put a price on that, because if they can't do without it, like they can't do without now what is ever being dredged from the harbor in Freeport, because they're using that for buildings, for roads, for everything in Florida. Everything they're using our what is dredged up, and you know, they're building highways galore using our materials, our land. And what are we getting from it? We need to have, and as you say, and you know, Kendall, I've been on your show and so forth, and we've talked about this. Every single Bahamian could, not that we need to have $1 million, but the fact is that in terms of what is the wealth in this country, there shouldn't be one person who's not well-being in this country.
I agree.
Aragonite is responsible for over 1,000 items. My suggestion to any government or any administration is to implement a mineral scientist in our schools so that our children can be able to dream again. Because if your children are not dreaming, there's no growth, there's no innovation, there's no creativity.
Kendall.
Imagine you got some conch shells, and I know you know about this, Mr. Davo. You can boil some conch shells, and it's powdered down. You add some water to it, and you have paint. If you want it green, you can take some aloe and put some aloe in it, and you can paint your house. You want it red, you can add some beets in it. Biodegradable.
Hey, Kendall, you remember with the back in the days, you're not old enough, but, you know, when we used to have the kilns on the island with conch shells and wood, and that's why when hurricanes came, they never blew down our buildings.
Those houses are still standing.
Still standing because they were made from what you call it? Cement. It was the conch shells, and that stuff was so firm. And I mean, like even the churches use that same on Long Island, and you would find they're still standing against the most powerful hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
Kendall, you're talking about
sitting back enjoying the talk so much, but when you mention a rocket, I say, hey, that's my name.
Kendall, you were talking about that big, huge white machinery that they use. Is that near Bahama Rock or?
That's it. It's working around the clock.
Yeah, 24 hours, right?
Working around the clock.
It's near the shipyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them when I was down there, just last week, and I was stunned. And I took a picture of it and all. I was like, what are they doing right there? And someone told me, oh, they're digging the aragonite. I was like, oh, this is where they're doing it right here. And it's right near the road, right?
Right. On the other side is the conch shells. You saw the conch shells in the bags?
Yes.
Where the conch shells, if you go online right now on eBay, they start at $59. It starts at $59.
The actual shell?
Yeah, we're actually giving them away. They're actually being packed up by the Chinese, and they bring in 40-foot containers and ship them out of here, and they're making a fortune of them.
$1.6 million of a trailer of conch shells.
Yeah, you hear that? Kendall, you got a final word. We're going to take a short break, and then we'll be right back.
Joe, just stay the course, man. You will go down as a great man in this country. Continue on, and Omar, you do the same, man.
Okay, thank you so much for calling, and you're such a knowledgeable person. Have a good evening. And you're doing well? You're doing better?
I am great, man. God has delivered me completely.
Oh, my God. I am so happy.
After you mentioned I'm sharing my testimony, I have a show there on Love 97 also on Saturday.
Yes, yeah. Okay. All right. You take care. God love you.
So much, man.
And I do, too. Take care now. Bye-bye. Okay, we take a short break, and you're listening to the Voice of the Bays, The Environment Speaks, and we have the renowned Omar Archer here, and we're talking about this magnificent country we have and how we're going to prepare to pass it on to future generations. We'll be right back.
Looking for furniture with style and elegance without forfeiting comfort? Well, you need to look at Donald's Furniture. Donald's Furniture and Appliance Center, home of the Credit Connection, located 6 Terrace, Centerville, will provide just what you're looking for. Furniture with comfort, style, elegance, and stunning good looks. And the lowest prices on the island. Easy credit terms available. Stop in or call us at 322-1731 or 322-3875. Donald's Furniture and Appliance Center. Comfort, elegance, and style.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays Radio Show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
So what's the deal with Save the Bays? Environmental attorney Romy Ferreira sets the record straight.
We're asking for the Environmental Protection Act. We're asking for the Freedom of Information Act. We're asking for sustainable development, proper coastal management. These are important issues. I thank my forefathers for independence. I thank them for majority rule. But now this is the fight of our generation. This is our fight.
Protect our natural resources. Save the Bays. Sign the petition at savethebays.bs.
Rise up, Bahamas, let your voices blaze.
Bahamas, your Save the Bays team is live on air once a week to give you your environmental update on your country, our beautiful Bahama land. Join us on Voice of the Bays Radio Show each Wednesday on Love 97 from 5 to 6 p.m. to hear the latest news on our 700 islands in the sun. Call in and let your voice be heard during the show. Calling from Nassau, dial 326-8255. Calling in from Freeport, use 351-6175. You can also listen to the show streaming online.
Welcome back, everyone. Bahama Land, we welcome you back to the last few minutes of a very interesting and passionate show this afternoon, and we've been able to avoid politics. Anyway, that's when you have intelligent people like Omar. There's so many things that we can do without even mentioning politics. So
Definitely.
Erica would have no problems with us this afternoon, or Mr. Jones. He would not have to suffer any repercussion from Erica. We have only a few minutes left, and Omar, it has been a joy to have you here, because
It's been my pleasure.
I have sensed that appreciation that you have for our country, for our people,
Yes.
and the preservation that should be there in order to pass it on. We must stop this thing of selling. You know, what was it back in the Egyptian time? They sold the thing for the pot of porridge. At the heritage of the people.
Yes.
You remember
Yes.
that?
Yes.
You remember that? But we got to stop that. You know, one thing before we go, and I think we need to cut out this whole celebration of Boxing Day. You know what Boxing Day is all about, right?
No, I don't. Honestly.
Okay. You see, that's why a lot of our people got to know certain things. Remember back in the days when slavery, this started in England when they had all these slaves, and on the particular day, Christmas Day, the big banquet they ate and all of that, and the slaves are not allowed to celebrate the Christmas Day. So they gathered up all the crumbs that were left over, and they put them in boxes. And so the day after Christmas, the slaves were allowed to have their celebration. That's where Boxing Day comes from. It was the crumbs from the table of the masters. Why do we celebrate that?
Oh my goodness, I had no idea. I'm going to look that up. I have
Yeah,
to do
look
some
it
research
up.
on
But
that.
they would not say that, though, because we've only been guided by European history. Okay. So they would not ever put that in there. And that is one thing that I think we should eliminate with this Boxing Day thing. Call it another name. Have the have the day holiday after Christmas, but for God's sake, don't call it Boxing Day. It has an ugly connotation. It was the day when the crumbs from the masters eating were put in boxes and handed out to the black slaves.
Oh my goodness.
So
I'm definitely going to look into that.
But we're not slaves any longer, no. We're free men.
Yes,
and
we
Jesus Christ said, you are free now because you are loved. We're loved by the Creator God. Tell us more and more about your appreciation for these islands and these people. Why are you so passionate?
Well,
okay, we're
we got to go.
run out of time.
Yep. But we just want to say, just stop the selling of undeveloped Bahamian land and preserve these lands for the future Bahamian generation.
Oh, yeah, because we're not going to have much left by the end of the century. And listen, I have a piece of land that I live on in Freeport. It's about a little less than an acre. And I feel so bad for my people who can't say they have a piece of the rock. And that's, we're going to talk more about this, because violence comes from lack of ownership. Thank you for being patient with us, and the news is coming on now. Thank you all very much, and have a pleasant good evening.
We're out of here.